The power of the subconscious radar. The biggest mistake most men make is believing that attraction is a choice women make with their logical minds. You might think that if you have the right job, a clean car, or a rehearsed list of compliments, she will decide to like you. This is where you fail. Attraction isn't a conscious decision, it is a biological reaction. Every woman is born with an internal, subconscious radar that acts as a gatekeeper to her emotions. This radar is constantly scanning her environment, looking for specific social cues and behaviors that signal high value masculine energy. It operates entirely on its own, separate from her logic. You can be the perfect guy on paper, stable, kind, and successful, but if her radar doesn't pick up the right signals, she will feel zero chemistry, and there is absolutely nothing her logical brain can do to change that. This radar is looking for one specific thing: status. But it's not the kind of status you find on a business card. The radar is scanning to see how you perceive yourself in relation to her. Most men immediately put a beautiful woman on a pedestal, treating her like she is a prize to be won or a superior being to be impressed. The moment you do this, her radar pings you as low value. It detects that you are seeking her approval, which signals that you believe she is better than you. Biologically, women are programmed to seek a man who stands firm, someone who doesn't fold under the pressure of her beauty. When you try too hard to be liked, you are essentially telling her radar that you are beneath her, and the radar will immediately shut down any possibility of romantic attraction. To pass this scan and flip the switch in her mind, you must adopt a completely different internal perspective. You have to stop seeing her as a goal and start seeing her as a regular human being, because that's exactly what she is. She has flaws, she has bad days, and she has insecurities just like everyone else. When you internalize the truth that she is just a person, your body language and tone of voice change naturally. You stop being nice to get something from her, and you start being authentic. This lack of desperation is what the radar is actually looking for. It wants to see a man who is comfortable in his own skin, regardless of who is standing in front of him. When her radar detects that you don't care about her approval, it sends a powerful signal to her brain. This man is higher value. This creates a psychological loop where she begins to seek your approval instead. This is the rare secret that allows men who aren't necessarily the richest or the best looking to have incredible success. They aren't fighting her logical mind. They are communicating directly with her biological instincts. Once that radar identifies you as a high value man, her logical brain is bypassed. She will find herself drawn to you and eager to see you again, often without being able to explain why. She might even make excuses for your flaws because her subconscious has already decided that you are the right man. Success starts the moment you stop performing and start standing your ground as an equal, or better yet, as the prize. Dominating through comfort and indifference. Most men fail because they treat body language like a choreographed dance or a military drill. They obsess over standing perfectly straight, keeping their hands out of their pockets, or maintaining an intense robotic level of eye contact. This is all fluff, and more importantly, it's a massive red flag to a woman's radar. When you are stiff and overly focused on your posture, you are screaming to the world that you are nervous, try hard, and seeking approval. High value body language isn't about following a set of rigid rules. It is entirely about two things: absolute comfort and total indifference. You need to move and exist in a space as if you own it, not as if you are a guest waiting for permission to be there. The moment you stop worrying about how you look is the moment you actually start looking like the prize. The first physical shift you must master is the art of leaning away. This is a subtle but lethal psychological move. Most guys have a natural instinct to lean in when they're interested in a girl. They lean in to hear her better, they lean in to show they're listening, and they lean in because they are subconsciously chasing her energy. You must do the exact opposite. By leaning back or leaning away, you create a vacuum that she has to fill. It signals that you are the center of gravity, and she is the one who needs to work to get closer to you. When you lean back, you communicate that you are relaxed and unimpressed by her beauty, which is a massive attraction trigger. It shows you aren't desperate for her attention. And in the world of dating, the person who leans back is always the one in the position of power. This leads directly into one of the most misunderstood tools in a man's arsenal: the power of walking away. Most men think that if a girl acts bored or says something they dislike, they need to talk faster or try harder to save the interaction. That is the quickest way to kill attraction. If she is being difficult or disrespectful, you don't argue and you don't plead. You simply dismiss the comment with a smirk and physically start to walk away. Attractive women are accustomed to men who will tolerate anything just to stay in their presence. When you show her that you are willing to leave the second your standards aren't met, you immediately reset the power dynamic. It proves that your time is valuable and that you have plenty of other options. Often, you'll find that as soon as you turn your back, she will be the one chasing after you to keep the conversation going. To tie this all together, you must adopt what is known as old friend comfort. Think about how you sit when you're hanging out with your brother or a friend you've known for 10 years. You aren't thinking about your hands, you aren't worrying about your spine, and you certainly aren't trying to look alpha. You are just at ease. You stretch your legs out, you lean back, and you take up as much space as you want. This level of relaxation is the ultimate sign of status. The most important person in any room is always the person who is the most comfortable. When you sit with a girl and you are genuinely relaxed, her subconscious radar picks up that you feel safe, secure, and superior to the situation. If you are stuck in your head wondering if your posture looks good, you have already lost the game because your lack of comfort reveals your insecurity. Be the man who doesn't care if he's being watched, and you will be the man she can't stop watching. Mastering the 50-30-20th conversation formula. To keep a woman truly engaged, you must escape the job interview trap that kills attraction for most men. Most guys fall into a cycle of boring, predictable questions that make a woman feel like she's being interrogated rather than charmed. To stay in total control of the vibe, you need to apply the 50-30-20th ratio. This isn't just a suggestion, it is a strategic blueprint for high value communication. By structuring your conversation this way, you ensure that she is the one doing the emotional work, which naturally deepens her investment in you. When she spends the majority of the time sharing her thoughts and feelings, her subconscious begins to view you as a safe, high status anchor. You become the man who truly gets her, all while maintaining an air of mystery and effortless cool. The foundation of this formula is the first 50%, which must be entirely about her. Humans are biologically wired to enjoy talking about themselves more than any other topic. Your goal is to act like a high level therapist, not by being clinical, but by being deeply curious. Instead of asking what she does for a living, ask her what she dreamed of being when she was 5 years old. Dive into her personality, her weirdest habits, and what actually makes her tick. The more she talks about her childhood, her passions, and her fears, the more energy she invests in the interaction. This investment is key. The person who speaks the most is the one seeking approval, while the person who listens effectively is the one in power. By letting her take the lead here, you aren't being passive. You are being the leader of the emotional space, allowing her the freedom to reveal herself to you. The next 30% of the interaction should be dedicated to the environment and pure playfulness. This is where you keep the energy light and unpredictable. Most men are too serious, terrified of saying something wrong or looking stupid. To pass the radar, you have to break that pattern. Talk about the weird guy across the room, the terrible music playing in the background, or a random thought that just popped into your head. Be silly, be unfiltered, and don't worry about whether your comments make perfect logical sense. If you find yourselves disagreeing on a topic, do not make the mistake of arguing to prove you are right. A high value man doesn't need to win a debate to feel secure. Simply state your opinion with a smirk, say, well, I guess we'll just have to disagree on that, and move on to the next fun topic. This shows her that you aren't fazed by her opinions and that you don't need her validation to be comfortable in your own reality. Finally, the remaining 20% is where you talk about yourself, but you must do it with a specific twist. Never, under any circumstances, use this time to brag or list your achievements. High value men don't need to announce their success because their presence speaks for itself. If you spend your time talking about your expensive car or your big promotion, her radar will immediately flag you as someone who is insecure and trying too hard to impress. Instead, use self deprecating humor. Tell a story about the time you completely failed at a new hobby or a moment where you looked absolutely ridiculous. When you are willing to share your low value moments with total confidence, it proves the exact opposite, that you are so secure in who you are that you don't need her to think you're perfect. This vulnerability, backed by a strong frame, is incredibly magnetic because it shows you have nothing to hide and nothing to prove. By the time you finish this cycle, she will feel an intense connection to you without even realizing that you've been the one directing the entire flow of the evening. The art of weaponized mystery. The fastest way to kill attraction and become just another guy is to be an open book. Most men make the fatal mistake of being too available, too transparent, and too eager to explain themselves. They think that by sharing every detail of their lives, they are building a connection, but in reality, they are destroying the tension. Attraction thrives in the unknown. When you give a woman every answer she asks for, you satisfy her curiosity immediately. And once that curiosity is gone, her interest begins to fade. To keep her hooked, you must master the art of weaponized mystery. This isn't about being dishonest or shady, it's about refusing to be predictable. It's about understanding that you are under no obligation to reveal your entire life story just because she asked a question. By withholding information, you forced her subconscious radar to stay in overdrive, trying to solve the puzzle of who you actually are. When a woman asks you a direct question, your instinct might be to provide a detailed, logical answer to show her how accomplished or interesting you are. You must suppress that urge. Providing long, explanatory answers signals that you are trying to impress her and that you are seeking her validation. A high value man knows that his worth isn't defined by his job title or his weekend plans, so he feels no need to justify himself. For example, if she asks what you do for a living, don't just hand over your resume. Instead, flip the script, smile and say, hold on there. We just met and you're already trying to figure out if I can afford the wedding? Slow down. Let's see if I even like your personality first. This does two things. It creates a playful push that keeps the vibe light, and it signals that you are the one evaluating her. You become the prize that is difficult to win, rather than the salesman trying to make a pitch. This principle applies to every interaction, especially when it comes to your time and your personal life. If she asks what you're doing this weekend and you tell her you're just staying home to clean your apartment, you've signaled that your life is mundane and predictable. Instead, give her a non answer that sparks her imagination. Tell her, I've got something pretty exciting planned, but it's a secret for now. Maybe if you're lucky, I'll tell you about it later. By being vague, you allow her mind to wander. She starts imagining you doing something adventurous or meeting someone interesting. Because her radar can't find a definitive answer, it keeps scanning you, looking for clues. This mental loop is what creates an addiction. She will spend the rest of the day and potentially the rest of the week thinking about you, wondering what you're up to, and trying to figure out what makes you different from every other guy who tells her everything. Mystery is the fuel that keeps the fire of attraction burning. When you aren't an open book, she has to work to turn the pages. You want to be the man who provides just enough information to keep the conversation moving, but never enough to give her the full picture. If she asks about your past relationships, don't dive into a list of your exes. Simply say, I don't usually discuss my private life with strangers, but you seem interesting enough that I might make an exception eventually. This keeps the power in your hands and ensures that the radar inside her stays focused on you. You aren't just another guy she met, you are a mystery she hasn't solved yet. As long as there is more to discover, she will stay engaged, stay curious, and stay irresistibly drawn to your energy. Be the man who is heard, but never fully known, and you will find that women become obsessed with finding the pieces to your puzzle.